we are just going to spend a couple seconds getting our presentation up on the screen, so just a minute. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started here. We are waiting for one member of our team to join. I do apologize if you hear a dog barking in the bathroom in the background. Hopefully she will quiet down soon. My name is Courtney O'Connor. I am a member of the NASA social media team, and I'm joined by my colleagues Thalia Petrinos, Andreas Almeida, Maria Jose Vinas, and Tahira Allen, who should be joining us momentarily. We were very excited to bring some of our NASA content to South by Southwest. We had several panels, a space meetup, and even a keynote with the NASA administrator, where we were going to be talking all about our Artemis program to send the first woman and the next man to the moon by 2024. But with this change in programming, we thought that it would be better for this group of digital and social media experts to hear a bit more about what we do here at NASA in social media. So a bit of background, we as NASA have been on social for about a decade now, and our accounts are some of the biggest in the federal government. For the @NASA flagship accounts, we have about 55 million followers on Instagram, 36 million followers on Twitter, 22 million followers on Facebook, 4 million followers on LinkedIn. But that does not cover the entire agency. We also have our center accounts, we have mission accounts, and together we have a combined audience of over 173 million followers across all the platforms. And while we're really excited about this number and how we can reach such a large audience, we are constantly looking for new ways to reach non-typical audiences and to interact with our audiences in a way that encourages their participation. So today we're going to be going over a couple of these new initiatives. One moment, guys.
It's live TV.
Okay, I do apologize for the dog barking in the background. She just wants to be part of this show. Okay, so to take you through a couple of our more recent successes, we had our solar orbiter launch in February of this year, where this was at NASA Kennedy, and we hosted a NASA social, which is something we host for most of our major events, including launches, where we invite social media users to come to these events and communicate it to their unique audiences. Now, what made this such an interesting event, I'm so sorry, guys. What made this so interesting was that we worked with one of our social media users who took this fantastic photo during launch, and we shared it to our media release and our own social media platforms in a way that we hadn't done before. So by this way, we are communicating with our social media audience to use it in our actual mission coverage in a really compelling way. One more example was with the Broomstick Challenge. I'm sure many of you remember this. There was a viral tweet last year claiming that NASA said broomsticks could stand on their own one day per year, which is in fact not true. Physics says it isn't. And so we were trending though for about 2 days because of this. And we knew that we needed to take advantage of this opportunity and respond to our audience with the facts. So we worked with our astronaut Alvin Drew and a scientist at NASA headquarters to do a quick, brief, but informative video and posted that online. It became one of our most popular tweets for 2020 with over 4.4 million impressions. And it's an example of us not just joining a conversation, but adding to it in a really unique way that only NASA could do. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Thalia.
Hi, there. I'm going to talk a little bit about reaching our non-typical audiences here at NASA. So when we look at our demographics of who our audience is, we see a lot of patterns. We see a lot of men. We see a lot of people who are in the STEM fields. So that's people who are into science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We see a lot of self-professed space nerds. So there's people who are like already super interested in space, people who like Star Wars, they like Star Trek, they probably have a telescope in their backyard. And we see a lot of English speakers because a lot of our content is in English. Next slide, please. But the fact of the matter is, NASA isn't just for those people. NASA is for everybody. And so this graphic actually shows you who our LinkedIn followers are by geography. And you can plainly tell we have followers all over the world, and this is on one of our smallest platforms. And so the thing is, even if you don't think that you have a connection to space, even if you don't realize it, space has a profound influence on your life. The science and technology that we develop on the space station affects your daily life. And the fact of the matter is, we are all on this tiny spaceship called Earth hurling through space. So even if you don't know it, the missions that we send out into space have an effect on you. And so our content should reflect that. Next slide, please. So my name is Thalia Petrinos, and I run the Women at NASA channels. So we have a Facebook, we have a Twitter, we have a website. And my goal at Women at NASA is to tell women's stories. Next slide, please. We have women everywhere at NASA. We have women in our past. We have our hidden figures. Just recently, Katherine Johnson unfortunately passed away. But when she did, we saw this amazing outcry of all the people in the world who were influenced by her. Not just people who are interested in space, but all types of people. Next slide, please. And we have women in our present. We just recently celebrated our first all-women spacewalk in October with astronauts Jessica Meir and Christina Cook, and will be the first of very many. Next slide, please. Because our newest graduating class of astronauts has 6 women out of 13 members. And so there are bound to be a lot more opportunities for all-women spacewalks in the future. Next slide, please. So as the leader for Women at NASA, it's my goal to tell women's stories, because the fact of the matter is, if you want more women in STEM fields, if you want more women in space exploration, if you want more women at NASA, then you need to be telling their stories. And so this is an example of a woman's story that I told. Her name is Joanne Morgan. She had a 45-year career at NASA, but she is best known for being the only woman in the launch firing room for Apollo 11. And so I interviewed her for a long form article that I wrote for the website. The URL is there on the slide if you want to check it out. And I was kind of nervous when I put this out because it is a longer article, and people have shorter attention spans these days. But to date, it has over 40,000 page views. So it just goes to show that people want these stories. People crave these types of stories. Next slide, please. I've also launched a project called Faces of NASA, and the goal of this project is to pair stunning portraiture with a long-form quote that I derive from an interview with the subject. And so this is an example of a quote that I derived from an interview with astronaut Anne McClain. And the goal of this project is to really dig deeper. We see a lot of content where people talk about why they like their jobs or what school they went to, but I really wanted to dig deeper into who are these people who work at NASA. And so I'm going to read out this quote. She said, "That was the first thing I said to my doctors when I landed. She asked, 'How are you feeling?' And I said, 'I want to get back in the line and go up again.'" And I just think that's such a powerful quote, because we all know that feeling. We all know that feeling of getting off the roller coaster and saying, "I want to do it again." And so you don't have to be an astronaut to know that feeling. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that feeling. And so I think that using content like this connects what we do to everyday people, and it connects what we do to women. And so next slide, please. I'm just going to throw my info up there again. That's our Facebook, that's our Twitter, and that's our website. And that's my presentation. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. This is Maria Jose Viñas, and I'm with Andres Almeida.
Hello.
And we both run the NASA's Spanish language accounts. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at this address, and on Facebook. Very recently, we opened that page. And our main hub website is ciencia.nasa.gov. Next slide. So why is NASA doing Spanish and not other languages yet? We started with Spanish. First, because we were already doing it. There's a lot of Hispanics at NASA who are passionate about the language, and there were some grassroots initiatives before we jumped in and decided to put it, to lead it all together from headquarters. And also numbers. Spanish is currently the second most spoken language in the world and in the US, and it's expected to keep growing. And we hope that our program is also the blueprint for future accounts in other languages. Next slide. And even when our accounts are flagship, that is, they cover the whole agency, they are not a mirror image of the English accounts just in Spanish. We try to cater them to our public, focus a lot on the people, tell stories of Hispanic people at NASA, or how NASA research impacts Latin American countries and Spain, or bring in beautiful imagery from these countries that we get from our satellites. So why this focus on the people? Hispanics are not well represented in science and engineering careers in the US. There's a couple examples there from the National Science Foundation. And we want to provide role models to show future generations that they can do it too. They can be part of NASA. There's already very talented Hispanics working at NASA and helping NASA achieve its goals. Next slide, please. So for that, we launched a YouTube series called Hispanos de la NASA, which was 12 episodes that focused a lot on people. They were inspirational stories to highlight the contribution of the Hispanic community to NASA's mission. And they were also trying to encourage kids to pursue STEM careers. The scientists would talk about their roundabout ways, how they ended up at NASA. They were not straight careers. Sometimes they started in a different country with a different career and ended up working at NASA. And they would also give advice to kids, what were the things they learned and that helped them the most to get where they were. So we got about 1 million combined views on social media, and the episodes were shared by US embassies in Latin America and Spain. They were shown on NASA TV. They were featured in NASA visitor centers. And we're starting to prepare the second season, which will also showcase other types of NASA careers and more centers. Next slide. And we got fantastic feedback from our followers, and these are just some examples. I really like the first one that said in Spanish, this is translated from Spanish into English. This type of post is really inspiring. Many of us have grown up with the idea that being part of NASA is impossible. Even more so if you're a Latina, what an immense happiness this post gives me. And also the scientists were super thrilled to participate. Farisa, who was one of the scientists profiled from JPL, she said, what a pride to be given this chance to motivate people, even if I only ever reach one single soul. And with that, we'll go to Andres.
Yeah, and like as Maria Jose said, one of the ways we want to bring the Hispanic audience and people into NASA is having other influencers kind of engage with us and let them tell the story with us through their channels. So for example, we had a great interaction with Carol G, who is one of the biggest reggaeton artists right now. She does very popular in Latin America. Her Spanish language albums do very well. And she reached out with their producers, and we worked on creating a social media interaction because she had a song has a song that mentions NASA. Like it says, if you're far from me, I will go to NASA and get a rocket and go to you. So we played along with that, use it as an opportunity to educate people about the Artemis program, which is our program to send humans back to the moon, including the first woman back to the moon. So we did a Twitter exchange, and then it evolved to become an Instagram story on her own, where she got to tour our Johnson Space Center down at NASA and do with her personal Instagram account, she did a 21-minute narrated video of her own tour, explaining everything she saw, how passionate she was, and people could see, she was commenting with people, she could see how She essentially was an ambassador, helping share the NASA story and telling people about what NASA is doing. So that sort of thing helped the NASA en Español account grow quite a bit, 10,000 new followers for the Instagram account, just from that interaction, that social media coverage. And the press picked it up too. So we got coverage from Telemundo and People en Español, different media outlets that are not just Spanish only, but it's important to note also bilingual, because bilingual dual citizen Americans here, or Americans who do speak Spanish, also consume that sort of media, especially her fans. So it's, as of now, since as of March 2020, Carol G's tour of NASA Johnson Space Center is still one of her highlighted stories on Instagram. So that's how we show that, bring people into our realm, into our world, and make them kind of the center of our universe. And that's our graphic that we use for NASA en Español, and make them ciencia.nasa.gov or translate to science.nasa.gov. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We're going to see if Tahir's on the line to talk about Instagram now.
Maybe we kick it off.
Doesn't sound like her audio is coming through. Thalia, were you going to quickly run through her slides?
Yeah, sure. It's a shame that we can't hear Tahira right now because she is the mastermind of everything Instagram at NASA. But I will do my best to go through her slides for her. So we have 55 million followers on Instagram. It's by far one of our biggest platforms. And our goal at Instagram is to convey a lot of the really complex scientific things that we do to a general mainstream audience. We don't just want to make it fun. We also want to interact with people, and we want to let people know that they have a part in what we're doing. Next slide, please. And so part of the way that we do this is the way that we frame our Instagram posts. We recently revamped our entire social media strategy, and we wanted to do our best to make our posts relatable to our audience. And so we use a lot of really quick one-liners to lead our Instagram posts, but we also have the benefit of just having amazing, mind-blowing imagery at our disposal. And so we try to tie in things that are relatable to our audience to awesome space images. And so we're kind of lucky in that way. Next slide, please. This is one of our favorite examples of how we use current events and things that are trending right now in order to tie in complex scientific concepts to a mainstream audience. So this is an Instagram post. This was a video that was captured during a spacewalk. And an astronaut removed a debris shield from the space station and released it so it would burn up in the planet's atmosphere. It's completely safe. It happens all the time. And so this was around the time that Marie Kondo's Tidying Up series was really big. And so this video, you see the astronaut releasing this debris shield into space. And the caption we came up with says, "Did this debris shield spark joy? Sometimes you need to let go of what no longer serves you." And so this was a way that we could kind of tie in something that people were already talking about into stuff that's happening in space right now. And the engagement on this was amazing. Marie Kondo herself commented, and she said, "I haven't tidied outer space before, but I'm up to the challenge." And so this is just one of the strategies that we use to make our content relatable and understandable for people who might not have that immediate space connection. Next slide, please. Another thing that we do is that we engage with our audience as much as possible. And really, our team that runs NASA's social media accounts, the flagship accounts, this is really it. It's really not much more than this team right here. But every time that we post something on Instagram or really anything else, we always make sure that we're there in the comments to let people know that we see them, we're listening to them. And if we see people making a clever comment or something, we try to engage with them. We do this all the time on Twitter as well. If someone, posts a picture of their kid who wants to be an astronaut one day. Like we want them to feel heard. We want them to know that that's awesome and we're rooting for them. And so this is an example of a way that we interact with people on our Instagram and our other platforms. Next slide, please. So again, I really wish to hear her call went through, because she is the mastermind of all of our Instagram stories. Our Instagram stories are amazing, and they're amazing because they use the story format in order to explain really complicated scientific things. So for instance, last year when that first image came out of the black hole, that's a really complicated subject. It's really not easy to explain, you know, to even me or to anyone on our team how that works or what even is a black hole. And so we use stories, this kind of like slide by slide format, as a way to quickly and generally explain to people these things that are actually pretty complicated. And so we use that story format in a way that I think is very effective. And we can tell it's very effective from the way that people engage it and from the metrics that we get. Next slide, please. Another thing that we do with our stories is the same way that we do with our in-feed posts. We really try to interact with people as much as possible. We don't just want to shout information at people. That's not what we want to do. We want to interact from people. We want to hear from people. And so we use a lot of the features on Instagram in order to engage with our audience. We're using stickers. We use Q&As with astronauts and other notable people at NASA. We want people to feel heard. We want them to feel like we are listening to them and that we are interacting with them. So for example, in this Instagram story, Christina Koch hosted a Q&A from space. How cool is that? And so these are ways that we engage with our audience and we make them feel involved in the stories that we put out on Instagram. And I think that's it. I really hope that I did it justice. Tahir is the mastermind of all of this, so I hope I covered well.
Yeah,
thanks.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for covering that. The last topic that we're going to go through is our Ask NASA video series, which is a nice segue because similar to what we're doing with our Instagram content, which is directly interacting with our audience, that is what we're doing with this video series. So this is a new video series that came about with the goal to educate, engage, and inspire the public about our new Artemis program. And we knew that with this video series, we wanted it to be not just going on social media, we wanted social media to be the prime audience, and we wanted it to help frame the content and the questions that we're addressing that people have with this new program. So we developed the series to have one expert per episode answering rapid fire questions that the public have. And all these questions are coming from Google search and from social media. So why did we go with the AskNASA hashtag? Well, this is actually a long-standing hashtag that we've used for events like space station coverage, press conferences, our typical broadcasts. And it's direct, it's simple, it's unifying. We've used it for all of our centers, all of our missions. And at the end, it was also very strategic in that we knew that we wanted to start taking more public questions using the AskNASA hashtag, so that by having a video series with that same topic, it would just make it that much more part of the public consciousness. So how do we use this in the series? Well, with each episode, we knew who our speaker was going to be, and we knew what the topic was going to be. So about 1 to 2 weeks out, we would do a call for questions on social media, asking for questions from the public. And the more specific we were, the better questions we were getting, we found. Sometimes we would have somewhere between 10 to 15 questions, but sometimes with an expert like an astronaut like Christina Koch, who's coming back from her, milestone breaking mission in space, we were receiving hundreds of questions, which we then were able to filter through and find the best ones to ask. Then during the broadcast, we would do these questions rapid fire. And in the post-production, we would actually add the individual's Twitter handle and the question so that they would really feel like they were part of the content we were creating. And finally, we would, when we would post the episode, we would reply to each individual user whose question we had taken so that they would have that full circle moment, that they had known that question that they had asked several weeks earlier was going to be answered by an expert. So all in all, with this series, we did 15 episodes. with experts such as lunar scientists. We had 4 astronauts, including one while she was up in space. And we finished the season with our astronaut recruitment video. And now we're going to take a break before we go into season 2 to figure out what topics we want to go into, which episodes were our biggest success, and take it from there. And then one of the final things that we've learned from this is just how much the public loves how much we're engaging with them by taking these questions. We have teachers, we have students, we have individuals at home like they are now who really feel connected to NASA, our science, and our missions because we're making them part of this conversation. So with that, I do think we have just a couple minutes for questions if there are any. And also our contact information. We would love to hear more from you guys. We know that this was very brief and we could talk a lot more about all of this content. So please be in touch.
Fantastic. And I do think that perhaps we were able to add your 5th panelist.
Yeah.
See,
Tahira?
maybe it is still just audio issues.
If she does come in, I need to give a shout out to the rest of our team who isn't here right now, but hopefully they're watching. Sarah Loff really holds it down. She's brilliant. And Kendra, she was on our team, left for a little bit, and it's a different office. Now she's back, making better than ever. Brittany Brown, who is basically our mama bear. She keeps us going and takes care of us and roots for us. Yeah, we have a pretty solid team. Bree Hill, she is extremely helpful trying to streamline us and keeps us going. And Brian Dunbar, of course, who does our web, and us also has done this, co-hosted his own NASA socials down at Kennedy Space Center, and with his social media, when he tweets, you know it, because it's really good. It's really well done, really relatable. So yeah, I hope Tahira's there.
Excellent. That's great.
Work makes the dream work. It really is a great team.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I know that I am certainly grateful that you guys were here, and I would love to ask you a quick question. I apologize if I'm remiss in missing the fact that maybe you've joined TikTok yet, but as the people that support the people that actually go to space, I feel like I need to ask you about what the next frontier is for social media.
Well, I don't know. Does anybody have any input there? For me, I think the next frontier in social media is hopefully from the moon in 2024.
Nice.
Yeah, we are. When we go back to the moon, we are trying to get even better video and get astronauts more involved. Right now, with like as Courtney said, with the AskNASA series, video, especially personalized video where they're interacting with the public, I think that's becoming instrumental, especially for outreach, and not really to grow numbers. That's not our deal. We're really trying to reach people and help inspire them, because that's me. You know, I was that kid who learned about NASA, who followed it, and had little books on it, and visited Kennedy Space Center as a kid. And I saw people like that. I didn't think it was possible until somebody told me that this space is for you. There's space for you. So things like that, making it more engaging.
That's fantastic. Anyone else?
I would just add on that it is a NASA's charter that we reach as wide of possible audience as we can. And so we are always looking for the newest platform, a new audience. I think that today really talked about that quite a bit. Although we do have to look at, each platform individually. We have to work with, all the different parts of our agency to make sure that it's appropriate for it to be on that. So we are strategic with each platform that we join. And we look at each platform as its own audience. And so we create content differently for them. We have a unique voice. So, these are things that we take as they come.
Fantastic. Tahira, can we actually, do you have your audio?
This is my first time trying it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Funny how that worked out. I came in for the end, but I'm here now. So I apologize ahead of time in case my video lags or anything. It's messing up a little bit on our end, but right now I'm here. So Thalia did an incredible job doing my presentation. So If anybody has any additional questions they'd like to ask, feel free. The one thing that I just love to share with people that I think is pretty unique to our brand is that we don't have a marketing budget. So all of our outreach and our followers and all of this communicating, like Thalia mentioned, the people that you see right here are the people running these platforms of like over 100 million followers. And so we put a lot of our heart into it, and we really are the ones on the front line doing it. And because we don't have a marketing budget, we really have to get creative with it. And Thalia hit on a bunch of those points in my presentation.